Hi there guys, the episode I have for you today is absolute fire. Literally. You see, after my yesterday's livestream where I was incredibly successful using molotov cocktails, I decided to make an entire video dedicated to explosives. We will discuss in detail the process of crafting your own explosives, and then we're gonna take them and field test them live. So if you enjoy watching hordes of zombies burning, this is an episode for you. Explosives are probably the most efficient way to clear large groups of zombies from a given area, and most of us probably have hands-on experience using molotov cocktails, the easiest to craft and most frequently used type of an explosive in game. However, that fiery message in a bottle is not the only explosive we as survivors can have in our arsenal. There are a few more. These explosives are an aerosol bomb, a pipe bomb, and a fire bomb, each one with slightly different explosion characteristics and ingredients required to craft them. The easiest way to see all the different types of explosives one can make in Project Zomboid base game is to just open up your crafting menu and type bomb into the text box. You will see in the crafting menu that there are options of making the explosive itself, but also to fine-tune the explosive by adding either a timer or some sort of proximity trigger. We're gonna do everything in today's episode, so if you ever wondered how these things actually work, I will walk you through the entire process and then we're gonna blow things up. But before we jump into making complex pipe bombs with remote proximity sensors, we're gonna start with the absolute basics, the molotov. Molotov essentially needs three things: a glass bottle, gasoline or alcohol, and a rag. And the crafting menu for a molotov is usually a bit buggy, so even if you have access to all three ingredients and you're unable to make the molotov, the easy workaround is just to right click on an empty glass bottle and pick Make Molotov Cocktail from the drop down menu that pops up. And I probably cannot count how many times I've had issues making Molotov cocktails despite having everything required for them, so don't get discouraged, these things happen. What's important to know about the Molotov is that it's the only explosive that does not have any recipe requirement. Anything else that blows up, it does have a recipe requirement. And let's talk about the requirements before we make every other explosive available in game. There are two ways to unlock the remaining explosives in game. One is by finding explosive schematic. Now these differ from regular magazines by the fact that they are random spawn and each schematic can contain up to 5 different recipes. Now these are usually found in survivors' houses. I don't recall ever finding a schematic outside of a survivor's house, but since they are random, you're not guaranteed to find the schematic for a given explosive you want. If you want to make pipe bombs, even if you find an explosive schematic, you might find it for remote triggers or aerosol bombs. So this is a bit random and, luck is involved. So again, you gotta count on RNGs here. The alternative path to unlocking all the crafting recipes for explosives is simply picking an engineer profession at your character creation. If you're willing to take the cost and want to blow things up and don't count on just randomly finding explosive schematics, this is the way to go. So now that we got the recipe issue sorted, we can start crafting the remaining explosives, and we will start with a firebomb. A firebomb which is not that dissimilar from a molotov. The only difference here is the type of bottle. We're using plastic instead of glass. And if you notice that my crafting menu does act a little wonky and that the plastic bottle that I have in my inventory does not disappear, it's because I am using debug mode in this episode, and I will also use debug mode later when we will be field testing the explosives. Okay. Both the Molotov and the Firebomb are fairly simple crafts that require only 3 very basic items. So now let's craft the more complex types of explosives, starting with Aerosol Bomb. Now most of the things required to craft an Aerosol Bomb are fairly easy to find, maybe with the exception of the box of sparkles. I recall finding those maybe 2 or 3 times during my playthroughs. And there are no alternatives for those sparkles, so it's kind of a must-have ingredient. The hairspray, on the other hand, is interchangeable with an insect repellent, so here you have some options. And finally, a pipe bomb. Again, a completely different set of ingredients is required to make a pipe bomb. One thing which I think maybe requires a bit more explanation is the 20 units of gunpowder. Now, in order to source gunpowder in this form, you either need to be lucky enough to find it, or you need to sacrifice some of your ammunition in order to extract the gunpowder from bullets. All the explosives that we crafted are absolutely usable simply by throwing them in a given direction. They will work. However, some of the explosives can have some gimmicks added to them. Things like timers or remote triggers. They will turn your explosives into booby traps, basically. In order to get those, in many cases you need to level up electrical, and while leveling up electrical to level 3 is fairly easy and makes sense because that's when you unlock the ability to hotwire cars, going electrical level 6, I would never do it the traditional way, and thus debug comes in handy. And this is purely for science. We'll see how these booby traps perform in combat soon. Okie dokie, so we've got all the crafted explosives in our inventory, and it's time for the field testing. And in case you're wondering why all these Zeds are not paying any attention to me, well, that is because I did turn on invisibility and God mode, simply because I wanted to have a up-close look into how different types of bombs perform, and what are the mechanics of the timed or the proximity type of triggers. First up, we're gonna test the aerosol bomb, and specifically the one that has a timed explosion. So the way that it works, you first set the timer for a given amount of time, and then you simply place it on the ground by picking the arm option, and just wait for the trigger to trigger the explosion. Now you will hear a beep. That means that the bomb is actually triggered, and the last thing you need is just, get out of the explosion radius and see what happens. And in this particular case, while the timer did trigger the explosion itself was incredibly underwhelming. Next up is the pipe bomb. First we're gonna test how the remote trigger works. The process of setting the explosives is fairly similar to the timer. You first set a specific delay on the trigger, and then once that timer on the trigger passes, when something gets close enough to the bomb itself, the bomb will trigger and we will have an explosion. And as you can see, guys, when it comes to the pipe bomb, the explosion is much more impressive. And rightfully so. I mean, we needed 20 units of gunpowder, so effectively we've wasted 20 pieces of ammunition to make this bomb, so I would expect the explosion to be big. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, after testing both the remote trigger and also the timer, honestly, neither seems sexy to me. I think the best way to use explosives is, just simply throwing them at the direction of the enemy and watching chaos happen. So let's test that now, and let's test all the bombs we've made and see what kind of damage they deal. And yeah, let's pick the winner. And that was the molotov. Reliable, efficient, cheap, very good weapon. But how does it rank against a firebomb? Technically a very similar type of an explosive? Well, just watch. How is that for an explosion? Look at the radius. Look at the amount of fires it triggered. This is just pure destruction. I mean, guys, if we compare aerosol bomb, which takes much more resources to be crafted, is requiring special recipes or picking up a special profession to be able to make it, and the return for all of that is this puny explosion, then my take is we just stick to molotovs, and if we want to pack a bigger punch, we go for the firebomb, or as a last resort, we use the pipe bomb, but the trade-off of using gunpowder, in my opinion, is just simply not worth it. And while all these Zeds are burning nicely, let's address one more important question. Can you blow yourself up using explosives? And the answer is, well, technically, yes. Well, you cannot blow yourself up, as any explosive in Project Zomboid does not have a explosive effect, it just sets things on fire. So if you play with explosives, there is a chance that you will simply get caught in the fire and start burning, like our poor fellow over here. To summarize today's episode, I think the conclusions are clear. Explosives are a fantastic way to deal a lot of damage to large groups of zombies. They do, however, come with certain downsides. On rare occasions, you might actually hurt yourself in the process, which is definitely not recommended. Also, this is a method that's not fully controllable by the player. You throw the explosive to a specific point, but you do not control exactly where the fire will start. And finally, even if your explosive hits exactly where you want, there is one more thing you cannot control. You cannot control where the burning zombies will go. Sometimes in the process, they will simply go into the building that perhaps you just wanted to loot. And, well, they will set it on fire, and you're not going to be able to loot it anymore because it's not going to be there. Guys, I hope you really enjoyed this field test of explosives. I know this is a topic that's probably not fully explored by a lot of players, and I wanted to bring this visibility into various different options that we are given and see how effective they are. If you want to see how easy it is to mismanage using explosives and get yourself killed in the process, after the end of the video, I'm gonna post a clip from my yesterday's live stream, a clip in which I failed on so many levels, but me and the guys who were watching the stream had so much fun, and I wanted to share it with you so that, you know, we all share a laugh. If you found it funny, hop onto my Discord because I am streaming regularly, and you will find all the details about upcoming streams over there. That's everything I have for today, and guys, as always, thanks for watching. I'm Gertrix. Cheers. I like to use these small fences when I try to burn them with molotov cocktails, because it's much easier to throw it. Ooh. It will end poorly, I already feel it. Nah, we're good. This is all under control. Like, trust me, bro.
A few moments later.
Oh shit. That was not planned. That was a bad throw, but it'll be fine. I want to get them into this. Ah, the fire went out. Shame. So one of the things we could do is get into the house.
Not a great plan.
Have them follow us. Set the house on fire. Oh shit. No! No! Gotta move! Okay, what happened? Oh no! See, and Andy, it's all your fault. You called it. No, I'm just kidding. I got too cocky here, absolutely. I shouldn't have done that.